Hey YouTubers, I thought today I would do something completely different. I know I haven't been talking about photography very much. I do have other hobbies, and I've mentioned that in other videos. One that I really haven't talked about, and it's another sort of art-oriented hobby like photography, and that is drawing and sketching and painting. And I went through a phase, I've been into it and out of it all my life, and most recently I went through a phase that lasted a couple of years, and that's about the length of time most of my phases last, where I was just intensely into sketching, painting, and trying to deepen my skills at drawing and that sort of thing. So I thought tonight I would just share a couple of my sketchbooks. I've got a lot of sketchbooks up there on those shelves. I don't know if you can see them. There's a lot of sketchbooks up there on that shallow shelf right there. And there's more up in there. A lot of those are blank. And then I've got larger format sketchbooks and watercolor blocks and so forth of stuff that I've done. I think I did during that 2-year period something like 200 sketches, watercolors, pen and wash, etc. So I'm going to show you here is just a couple of my notebooks, and it'll be interesting to see what people think of this. So I'm not good at signing or dating in any of these, so I am not sure when exactly I did this in all of these. Actually, this one does have a date on it, so it looks like it was wow, could it have really been 08? Yeah, it was 2008. So this is one of my sketches. This is downtown Denver, and this is Union Station here, and some other building here. There was some kind of celebration going on, so there was a red flag, and I thought it was really cool that I'd get to put in this one pop of red in this whole painting. Most of these, I think, in this book were done with a very fine magic marker and then watercolor. So this is the technique known as pen and wash, or line and wash. And it allows those of us that aren't great watercolor painters to get a reasonably good painting if we can draw. And I'm okay as a drawer or a sketcher. My painting skills I worked on very, very hard, and got to where I was okay but not awesome. So anyway, this is all of these paintings were about possibly midway or a little beyond that in my practice. This scene here is Washington Park in Denver, and you can see I didn't plan this painting all that well. There's a lake down here. I didn't have room for it. So live and learn. You gotta think through your design before you start painting. This one I did on International Sketch Crawl Day a few years ago, and did I date it? I guess I didn't. I'm guessing that was also in 2008 or 2009, and this is a Catholic-like church / monastery. I'm sad to say I don't remember what it is. It's near Observatory Park in Denver. I did this sitting in my car, the whole thing. So this is plein air, meaning I did it while I was looking at the scene, and that's true of these other ones as well. I did this sitting on a bench in downtown Denver, and this I did sitting on a bench in Wash Park. So this one I did sitting in my car. It was just too darn cold to be outside, and believe me, it is a weird experience to do watercolor painting in your car. I had my driver's side window down, and I would flick my brush out the window in order to clean it out. But I was pretty happy with this. Again, I didn't plan the painting all that well. You can see that the buildings kind of run out at the bottom. This one is also at Wash Park, and I did a little bit better job planning this one. This building here appears in the other painting but it's from a different angle and from a further distance. And I showed this one to this is a park down here. I showed this one to my wife, and she said, "Oh, cool, you got the lake with the ducks." And I was like, "No, those are people." I think she saw this one, which kind of does look like a duck, but it's actually a person walking a dog. Anyway, that's one of those things that people's vision doesn't match your own sometimes. So this was on a snowy day, so there's a snowbank in the front, and then the sun had taken the snow away from the park down here. This is a church near my house, and I did this one sitting in my car, again, on a very cold day. And I'm not a religious guy in the least, but I really find that a lot of churches have a really interesting design. So, and I like architecture, and I like to draw architecture. I like to do architectural rendering. I've liked doing that kind of thing since I did a bit of it in college. And so sometimes I'll do churches, and this is a really interesting church. This I consider to be one of my bigger successes. I did this also in Washington Park. There's a couple of old houses in the park that I guess they use for the groundskeeping. They use it for storage. Like this is kind of a garage, and they use it for storage, and this is probably offices. And I just am really happy with this painting. I got good values into it. It's got good lights and darks, and the drawing's pretty good, if I do say so myself. Just overall is one of my bigger successes. So this is an example of what happens when I try to paint a pure watercolor. There's no drawing in this. I did a pencil drawing, but there's no ink drawing to sort of give structure to the painting. And I struggle a lot with this style of painting, and that may be obvious here when you look at this. It's either that, or I just don't like the style that my paintings come out with when they don't have my line work in them. I'm actually fairly happy with my abilities as a drawing person, but the pure painting aspect, still really struggling with that. This is a barn, and I guess a couple of barns near where I live. This is an experiment in using gouache, and that is a form of watercolor, we'll say, that's not transparent. It's thicker, and it's more opaque. And I'm actually really happy with this one. It's kind of bizarre looking. It almost looks like a cell out of an animation. I used a different pen here. I think I was actually using a inkwell and a pointed stick to do the drawing on this. And sometimes playing with your tools and sort of crippling yourself can get you to some interesting results. So I ended up liking this one, even though it's not typical of my usual style. I got real bold with the color and with the line work and so forth, and pretty happy with this one. This is a back alley in Littleton, Denver area. This painting, it looks like it's raining, but it's not. I just went way too dark on the street. Our eyes tend to fool us. We think the street, we know it's made of blacktop, so we want to paint it black. But really, on a sunny day, it's funny, blacktop can be pretty light in tone. So I'm pretty sure I did this plein air, and I just painted the street way too dark. Still, it comes across, it reads pretty well. There's mountains here in the background, or some really large hills. And the fact that their tone is kind of like the street's tone makes it look like a rainy image. And I guess I don't mind that, even though it wasn't that rainy. I love the architecture in downtown Buena Vista. There's a lot of really old buildings there. Okay, this was an experiment. What I did was I pre-painted a sheet of paper, much like this. I just randomly put marks, brush marks on a sheet of paper. Then I used a water-soluble pen and did my pen sketch, and this is basically a building being constructed, and this kind of a lift. I don't know what this is actually called, but it's some sort of a construction tool, construction vehicle. So I did the sketch on this pre-painted background, and then I went in with just a wet brush and used that to get the ink to run from the drawing. It didn't come out quite as nicely as I'd hoped. This area seems to me doesn't read all that well. I think if you don't know what it is, maybe you can't tell what it is. Since I know, I think it works okay. But I suspect it doesn't work for other folks. Here's a couple of sheets that I didn't actually work on. It's another pure watercolor with just a pencil sketch in the background. I did this in Kentucky. And this actually worked out pretty well. This I put up on Flickr. All these paintings are up on Flickr. I did this plein air and just held the sketchbook on top of the car I was renting and did this painting. This is called I think it's called the Round Barn in Lexington, Kentucky. Somebody found this on Flickr and actually asked me if they could use it for a fundraiser they were doing for one of the hospitals in the area, and I said of course. So this actually has been printed, and 1,000 copies or so. I don't know how many copies. So it's kind of cool. It was nice to be asked. This is a pure watercolor. You see there's no pen marks in it, and this one actually I'm fairly happy with. I did this. This is plein air, so done on site. This is at Twin Lakes, Colorado, and my wife was hiking. And I had an injury and couldn't really hike, so I sat on a cooler and painted this scene. Obviously it was fall, and here in the background I think this is Mount Elbert, and then down here is the lakes themselves. And these are these old fences. If any of you have ever gone to Flickr and looked at my photographs, you might have seen pictures of this area, photographs of this area with these old fences. And I think this is the last one in the sketchbook. I did this. I tried to do this as a pure watercolor, and I got in a big hurry, and I got some runs up here, and it basically just fell apart. And I did this with my roommate from college who comes to visit me every once in a while. He's a really good artist. And so we went out and did some plein air painting. So this, as I said, started as a pure watercolor. There weren't any ink lines on it at all. And it turned into such a mess that I went in after the fact and drew the scene. And that kind of rescued it. It's still not all that effective of a painting. I think the depth isn't captured very well because the front is light and the background is dark, which is kind of the opposite of what you want. But, it's a memory, and we had a good time doing these paintings. So it looks like I've taken about, well, more than 10 minutes. So I'm going to stop on this one. And based on feedback, I may or may not go through other of my sketchbooks. So I'm interested to see what you think about this kind of thing. I've got a lot of stuff I could show if people are interested in it. So thanks for watching. I will catch you later.